Well, I run an organization, the Population Research Institute, which makes the case for people, which says that people are the ultimate blessing, children are the ultimate blessing, and that people are a resource. They're the ultimate resource, the one resource that we cannot do without. You know, we've been taught to think of resources as things like oil that you pump out of the ground or trees that you cut down. But the ultimate resource, the one resource you cannot do without is the human mind, is the human person. And it's a tragedy that we have every year in the world, we have 50 million abortions, 50 million children already conceived who will not be allowed to see the light of day. And in part, they're eliminated because of this idea that the world is overpopulated and that we would be better off with fewer people. And of course, the reality is we'll be better off with more people.
I understand you set up this organization to reflect your change of thinking on this issue. You weren't always pro-life, were you?
In the beginning, I wasn't pro-life. I was pro-abortion. I wasn't a believer. I was an atheist. I wasn't opposed to population control. I was in favor of reducing the number of people on the planet. So my worldview changed dramatically because of experiences I had in China. You see, I was at Stanford University in California in the late 1970s. And for the first time, it became possible to go to the People's Republic of China and do research. I was selected by the U.S. government to be the first American allowed to do research in China. And I arrived just in time for the beginning of the one-child policy. I had no idea when I went to China that I was going to see women arrested for the crime of being pregnant. Let me repeat that, because people may not know that in China it is a crime for a woman to become pregnant without government permission. I have copies of arrest warrants that were issued for women, and the crime that they were charged with on the arrest warrant was the crime of being pregnant without permission. I saw women arrested. I saw them taken to a local government detention center. I saw them subjected to morning to night propaganda sessions where they were told, you don't have any choice, you will get an abortion whether you want one or not. And I saw them taken by force to local clinics where they were given lethal injections into the womb, an injection of a poison into the womb intended to kill their unborn child and cause it to be born dead a day or two later. I was present in the operating room when they did cesarean section abortions on women who were 7, 8, and 9 months pregnant. Imagine a woman only a few weeks or days from giving birth being given a cesarean section, not to deliver the baby alive, but to deliver a now dead baby, a baby that had been killed by a lethal injection. Now, when I saw this, I realized for the first time what an abortion was, and I was horrified. I realized that abortion was the killing of one of my little brothers and sisters, fully human except smaller and weaker than the rest of us. And so I became pro-life in that instant. I also came to see that China's problem was not too many people. China's problem was a government that would not allow people to practice their faith freely, that would not allow people like the Tibetans to have local autonomy, that would imprison you for the crime of speaking out against the current government and its human rights abuses. I came to see that it was tyranny that was China's problem, not too many people.
How did what you witnessed in China affect your work in social science?
Well, I have to tell you that being in that operating room and seeing those little babies sacrificed made me also become aware that God must exist, because I had confronted a great evil. It was as if the pit of hell had opened up before me. And I recoiled from that evil and began to seek the good. And if you seek the good, you will be drawn to the source of all goodness, who is God. Now, I came back to Stanford University a very different person than I left. And most of the Stanford faculty disagreed with me on all 3 points. First of all, they weren't believers, so they weren't impressed by my Christianity. Secondly, they were pro-choice. They believed that abortion should be legal, and so we disagreed on that. Even though what I was talking about was forced abortion, but they They seemed to embrace it. They also disagreed on the question of population control. They thought the world was overpopulated, as I had before I went to China. They thought that China was overpopulated and that it would be better off with fewer people, as I had before I went back to China. So I came back, and when I began to write and speak about these things, they became upset with me, because you see, I had violated the typical views of the academy. But I also made Beijing very upset. The Chinese government is very upset with me and accused me of writing articles to attack China. Now, I didn't write articles to attack China. I wrote articles to tell the truth about the one-child policy and to tell about these terrible human rights violations that were being visited upon Chinese women. You know, Chinese women have the highest suicide rate in the world. Every day, hundreds of Chinese women commit suicide. Every year, 200,000 Chinese women commit suicide. China has by far the highest suicide rate in the world, and most of the suicides in China are women. Why? Because they've been forcibly aborted, they've been forcibly sterilized, and they feel guilty because they were unable to protect the children that they were carrying and wanted to bring into the world, because the state said, no, those babies are illegal and they must die. So Stanford and I came to a parting of the ways, and I'm happy to be a Christian now and to not be a professor at a major university. I think that was a good trade-off.
And what would you say now to people who argue for abortion as a means of population control?
I would say that they need to stop viewing people as parasites on the planet and start viewing people as the ultimate resource, the one resource you can't do without. Now, a friend of mine, a U.S. congressman, recently asked a senior member of the Chinese Communist Party about the one-child policy. How many people have been eliminated from China due to the one-child policy, he said. And this senior Communist Party official said, we have eliminated 400 million people from our population by means of this policy over the last 32 years. We have eliminated more people than the entire population of the United States, 312 million. Don't they understand that Japan and South Korea and Taiwan and many countries are actually losing population from year to year, are aging and dying? Don't they understand that children are the only future that a family has, that a nation has? And don't they understand that I think there's plenty of room on God's green earth for all of us? I mean, we believe in an all-powerful, all-knowing God. Surely God knew at the beginning of time how our numbers would grow. He knew that in 2012 there would be 7 billion of us. And being all-powerful, He would give us a planet with the resources that we need to support all 7 billion of us. He would pre-position those resources so that we could unlock them using our God-given intelligence at the time that we needed them. And that's been the whole history of the human race. As our numbers have grown, our prosperity, our well-being has grown even more. And young people need to understand that the socially responsible thing to do to help themselves, to help their neighborhood, to help their community, to help the country, to help the world, is to have children. We should be open to life, and we should understand that life begins at conception and continues through natural death, and we should understand that children are blessings. They shouldn't be seen just as burdens.
Mr. Mosher, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.